Sarah?
Mr. Chair, you are now live.
Good evening and welcome to the Town of Ajax Heritage Advisory Committee meeting for Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. This meeting is being held electronically and live streamed on the internet. All staff and committee members are participating via phone or video. All regular practices and procedures of the committee continue to apply during this electronic meeting. If we encounter any technical difficulties, we may take a brief recess while they're resolved. Thank you for your patience. We will now proceed with the meeting. So first off, are there any conflicts of interest of the committee members from the committee members with any items to be discussed this evening? I see everyone nodding no, so thank you very much. If we can look to now adopt the minutes from the previous meeting dated February 3rd, 2021. Do we have a motion to adopt?
I'd like to move the minutes of February 3rd meeting be adopted as posted, barring any errors or omissions.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Moved by Stephen, seconded by?
I will second the motion.
Paul, thank you. All those in favor?
I'm in there.
Very good. Motion carried. So now we're going to move on to our agenda item number 4, which is the presentations and discussion items. And as requested by Brenda earlier in the day, we're going to allow Brenda to move ahead with her points. So we will be starting at point 4.3, the proposed visit of the HMS Ajax and River Plate Association for 2021. Brenda, the floor is now yours.
Brenda, you're muted.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Brenda. Okay, there you are.
Okay, my internet's a little unstable, so I'm going to apologize. If I cut out, I will join on my phone. Sarah, I sent the presentation to you via email. Did you get it?
Sorry, Brenda, playing with multiple screens here. When did you send the presentation?
Just sent it now.
Just send it now? Okay, hang on just one.
Okay, so to start off, as you know, we were hoping that the HMS Ajax and River Plate Veterans Association members would be able to visit us this year. Unfortunately, I have received word that the visit this year has been canceled again. So everything has been deferred to next year. Hopefully things will have settled down and we'll be able to get them over here at that time. The next thing was the update of the display cases. So as you know, the 2 front display cases in the Heritage Square foyer have the display for the Brain Injury Association of Durham Region, and the unmasking exhibit was supposed to happen again in June this year, but it looks like that's not going to happen. So we've asked for an extension on the loan agreement from the association so that we can carry this over, and hopefully next year in June, we'll be able to do the unveiling. On a good note, everything finally came in for the Woodhouse uniform. We had some problem getting the mannequin in through customs, but it finally arrived, and today the uniform was put in the display case. Can you guys,
Brenda,
can you hear me okay?
It's a little
sorry,
soft,
my
but
internet
we can hear you.
Okay. So hopefully you will be able to get in soon to see the uniform. It actually looks really nice. The display case is identical to the Harwood uniform. And I've done the same display cases or the information boards for it. And I'm just in the process now of cleaning and changing the rest of the display cabinet. My goal is to actually have that done by the end of next week. Any questions on that?
Okay, so I don't see any questions, and so I'll take that as a sign that we can now move on to item 4.1, which is a designation of the Nicholas Austin property. So over to Mike, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. Just give me a moment to get the presentation up here. Just having a little trouble here with getting the presentation open. One moment, please.
Just a reminder, this is the 80th anniversary of the DIL plant in Ajax this year.
All right, can everyone see that?
Yes, we can.
Yep, okay, perfect. So the two items I have tonight, neither one is new. They're both updates on existing projects that we discussed at the previous meeting. So the first is on the designation of the Nicholas Austin property. We all remember this property at the corner of Lake Ridge Road and Kingston Road East, right at the eastern limits of the town. And this is the property that contains a dwelling, as well as a garage and stable, a barn, and that really unique airplane hangar. So back at the March 8th General Government Committee meeting, I brought forward a report on the designation of the property, and that report included two recommendations. The first being that the Nicholas Austin property be designated by the town of Ajax as a property of cultural heritage value or interest under Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. And the second, that staff be authorized to issue the required notices and prepare the designation bylaw for consideration by council. So I can happily report that this was approved by the committee and then ratified by council. So when it comes to heritage designations, the process can really be broken down into 6 steps. We have completed, or prior to this even coming forward, we had completed the first 2. So we had identified this site and we had also had the research done to evaluate the property. The reason this report went to GGC was to get authority to move forward with the notice of intention to designate. So that includes providing official notice to the owner, notice to the public, and gives any party the opportunity to object to the designation. So as part of this process, we created a website on the town's IMO page that provides all kinds of information about the property and the designation process. And that's what you see on the left. And on the right is a copy of the advertisement relating to the designation that's being run in the local newspaper. So in terms of timeline, we've discussed this and put a motion forward for the designation at our last meeting in February. As I mentioned, it went to GGC on the 8th, was ratified on March 22nd. The notice went into the newspaper last week on Thursday. So that officially starts the 30-day appeal period, which will run until April 30th. If no appeal is received, then we can actually move forward with the designation bylaw to council on May 17th. And then from there, it's just a matter of getting that registered on title and providing notice that the designation has passed. And from that time, we'll probably want to pick up again where we started this process, which was looking at ways to remedy some of the existing issues with the building relating to property standards. So once that designation's in place, we'll be in a good place to make recommendations on the repairs that they need to make, and we don't run the risk of them trying to demolish the building or make any kind of unauthorized changes that we wouldn't support. So any questions from the committee on that? Nope. All right, we can move right along. So again, this is another update on an item that we discussed at the last meeting. 8 Elizabeth is a property on the west side of Elizabeth Street that backs onto Duffins Creek. Currently, it's a vacant property. So previously, it was part of a single property with the building at 10 Elizabeth Street, which you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. But there was a subdivision recently, and now this is a lone parcel that's ready for development. So at the last meeting, I mentioned that the owner, the proponent for the new construction, was making an application to the Committee of Adjustment for minor variances relating to the setbacks on the property. But prior to proceeding with that, we recommended that they work out all of the design issues so that we could issue the heritage permit, knowing that we were at, you know, a relatively final design, and that this wouldn't have to then be redesigned at some point in the future, which could require them to go back to the committee. So just to recap, this is what the proposal ultimately started with back in January 2016, which really didn't fit with the recommendations or the requirements, I should say, that fall under the Heritage Conservation District Plan. We provided some very high-level feedback about different sort of design motifs they could work with, and they ended up following something very similar to what was proposed. So this plan came in very early in the new year. While it was headed in the right direction, there were a number of features that didn't quite meet the requirements of the HCD plan. So they provided a revision of that later that month, which was much more in line with what we were looking for. However, there were still a number of elements that I provided direction back to them that we'd be looking to change. So in February, we got a final version of this plan. And I should also mention that these are quite detailed drawings, but they are still somewhat conceptual in the sense of these haven't gone to the building department for a building permit. So there is the potential that they could be revised slightly. But when I reviewed them, it was really looking at the general sort of design of the building. So this was the rendering of the previous design that I had presented to the last at the last committee meeting, and there were a few items that didn't quite work within the requirements of the district plan. So, for example, these Juliet type balconies here would not be something that we would support. There's direction in the HCD plan not to have these large single bay garages. It's preferred to have individual bay garages. The proportions on the door were a little bit off when compared to what you would typically see for a Gothic revival type building. Even these, the sort of portico here at the main entrance is more of a Second Empire type design, which is specifically there's specific direction in the HCD plan not to include Second Empire building features. And there were a number of other very, very minor issues, but things like the treatment of the bay windows here, how after the window it goes back to brick, which isn't something you would typically see. Typically, you just have the roof component at the top of the window, all the way to things like, you know, if there are going to be shutters on the windows, those shutters need to be appropriate in terms of their scales, So if they were operable shutters, when they closed, they should cover the entire windows. So what we've moved towards now is this image that you see here. So as you can see, a lot of the individual features that were discussed and requested for revision, they essentially came back and did everything that had been requested. So this building, while it doesn't necessarily mimic exactly what you would typically see in a Georgian style, or sorry, in a Gothic style house, it does contain a number of those elements. At the same time, it is somewhat distinguishable from an actual authentic Gothic type house. And I mean, everything right to the garage along the side. Of course, you wouldn't see that in more historic buildings. But what we were looking to do is really help this new building blend in with the surroundings. So on March 19th, I issued the heritage permit for the construction. And through that heritage permit, we tried to delineate some of the characteristics that would have to stick with this building design. So as I mentioned, because they're not at the final phase of submitting drawings for building permits, there is a chance that the design could be tweaked slightly. So what we had to do through the heritage permit was to outline some of the general themes that we would look to have retained through the eventual final drawings. So an example of some of these things are the general Gothic revival architectural style, the layout of the house with the 3 bays on the main house, and then the flanking recessed area, which contains the garage. The gabled dormers along the roof line. We actually spent quite a bit of time going back and forth with the developers about the cladding materials. So as some of you will remember from some of the larger projects in the village, specifically 113 Old Kingston and 599 Kingston Road West, which were both 4-story mixed-use developments that were brought to the committee, there was a lot of work in terms of finding appropriate brick types that would somewhat match the style and the color of the existing brick within the village. So we were quite lucky that the developer in this case said, you know, we're willing to work with those materials that you had provided. Similarly, the way the grade works on this property, there's a lot of exposed foundation as you move towards the back of the house. So at that point, you're going to start seeing a lot more of the foundation. For that reason, I was able to convince them to move away from a foundation stone that wouldn't have been typical to buildings in the village to one that actually looks quite like an authentic field stone foundation. So it's the same product that was actually used for the West Glen restoration project up on Westney Road. Some of the other features that are pointed out through the heritage permit is the main entrance with the overall design, including the transom and the side lights, the central entrance portico with the flat roof, the canted bay windows on either side of the central entrance, and also the 2nd story 2/2 hung style windows. So overall, I think that you know, the final product that we're seeing is a quite good representation of a lot of the characteristics of the buildings in Pickering Village, and I think it'll set a good example for any future rebuilding, because I think this is essentially the only undeveloped lot, at least residential lot, in the district as it stands now. But there would be the potential in the future for people to redevelop their properties if they don't have heritage buildings. So I think this really does set a good course for us in terms of the kind of interactions that we can have with those proponents and the influence that we can have over the final design. So any questions from members of the committee?
Chair, I'd like to address the presenter.
Sure, go ahead, Councillor Khan.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Just you answered the questions that popped up in my head as you went along about I was wondering how many more of these properties we would have had to go through this this procedure with, but you said that was the only lot left to be developed. I'm just curious, this seemed like a lot of trouble to go through for someone to build a property. Is there any really direct interest why somebody would want to go through all this for a property, building a house in that street? Is there any background to that whatsoever?
So you're right, it is a little more work than what would typically be required, but that's the entire purpose of having a heritage conservation district. The purpose is for us to be able to have some control over the way that buildings look.
I didn't mean, sorry, misinterpreted that. I didn't mean for our end. I meant for the builder or the owner of the house to want to go through something so tiresome rather than just building a house somewhere else. Was there a background?
Oh, well, I think that, I mean, this is a desirable area of the town. So, I mean, and I think all of us are familiar with land prices and home prices these days. And anywhere you can find a spot to develop a house, someone's going to be willing to do it. So
Okay.
the fact that this one did exist within the Heritage Conservation District, yes, it's a little more work for that developer to build here. But I mean, they're still going to reap the rewards that all developers do at the end of their projects, right? They're taking a vacant parcel, which I mean, probably wasn't extremely cheap or anything. It was still a nice piece of land. But then with them building on that and being able to offer this to their client, they will reap the typical rewards of a developer. This was an interesting case as well, because I think more often than not, we see developers purchase these lands, build a house, and then put it up for sale. Whereas in this case, there's an end buyer already in place. So somebody has purchased this land and they've hired this firm to design the house for them. So with each recommendation that I provided, they would take that back to the eventual homeowner, run it past them, get the feedback, see if it works or if it didn't. So that made for a little bit of a more interesting process. You may remember the last time I presented on this, I talked about the fact that the homeowner was originally looking for a stucco building. That was their preference in terms of a material. But stucco buildings aren't something that we support in the Heritage Conservation District. So we had to look at other materials, and in the end, they chose brick over wood, which was the other option,
Okay.
because those are the two historic types of materials there.
So at the end, Mike, this is all done and approved now, finally, for the homeowner? Or
So
there's more?
the heritage component is approved. Now it will move forward to the Committee of Adjustment, which is really going to look at, I think it's the front setback and the side, no, the front and the rear setbacks don't match what's typically required by the zoning bylaw. And the reason for that is this property doesn't have a lot of depth. When the severance happened, the Conservation Authority actually took quite a bit of land from the rear of the property, which really decreased the depth and meant that if they wanted to build the type of house that people are building these days, they would have to go for this extra approval through the Committee of Adjustment. So I believe that'll be coming up either this month or next month. And then from there, it's really just a process of getting the building permits.
Okay.
So by doing the heritage permit at the front end, we do our work up front, and then they continue to go through the process.
Okay, it's a beautiful property. I'm sure it's worth all the work. Well, whilst I have you, just going back to the Nicholas Austin property, did you have any luck in finding the owner for that direct correspondence?
I mean, we have the mailing address, so
Yeah.
we're able to send the information by mail, and the owner information that we have. I mean, it's been consistent for the last few years, and there haven't been any updates. So I'm assuming we have the right organization, but no, there's been absolutely no feedback yet from them, which is somewhat surprising. So, sometimes what happens with this is people don't respond at first when we reach out for designation, because it's not something that they might be comfortable with, and they just figure if they don't respond, it might go away.
Yeah.
We were quite clear in our correspondence that this is something that would be moving forward. Still nothing out of them. But sometimes what does happen is, as you creep towards the end of that appeal period, you do hear from them. And they, as the owner of the property, do have the opportunity to appeal the designation. If that is the case, then this will be forwarded to a third party, called the Conservation Review Board, where both sides will be heard. The town will have to provide a case as to why we want to proceed with the designation, and the owner would provide a case as to why they don't think the property should be designated.
Okay, well, great work, Mike. Thank you and your team for your hard work and dedication in representing our town. It's very highly appreciated, and I let my council colleagues know the amount of work that you guys do with this. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think Neil has his hand up for a question. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, through you to Mike. Mike, what's the rear of the property look like? Is that something that comes up for review by yourself, or is it hidden by the trees at the back?
So the rear of the property is definitely not as dressed up as the front. I mean, even you can see from the rendering here, the sides. I tried to have some influence over the sides of the building and trying to get more of the proportions that you would typically see for a historic building. That's not something the designer was able to match because of the interior design of the building. There was a certain way they wanted it laid out. And so the sides and the rear, like I said, definitely don't match the historic appearance of the front. But from our perspective, I mean, when you're considering a heritage conservation district, really what your main concern is the areas of the building that are visible. And for this building, that really is the front. There is a little bit of side view available, I think, from either side, but no one will ever see the rear other than the homeowners themselves. So we haven't really gotten too involved with those elevations.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Mike, one quick question. Now that you've said earlier that this is a done deal, did we agree to these? To me, the points of the roof look very exaggerated in this picture. Looking at the drawings, I thought you could see a bit of the sloped roof from behind.
Yeah, so this is,
Points don't go up, and then
yeah, so it's, I mean, that's partially the angle of the rendering here, because it's the way it's spotted is down at about ground level looking upwards. So you're seeing a bit of a skew in terms of what's presented there. That was something that I did try to do. I did try to provide recommendations at the very front end. So when we go back to this sketch here, this red line here actually represents the original roof line of the property. And because most of the properties in the Heritage District are 1.5 stories, my original suggestion to them was to try to bring that all down a little bit. So that's why I have the roof scaled out here as it is, whereas these dormers become more functional in the sense of the windows are aligned with the roof line. The dormers allow those to be exposed. So that's more of a typical design for a Gothic building. Because this property, the property owners and the designer wanted to keep the full 2nd story height, they shied away from that idea, excuse me, and presented, this originally, which was maintained over time. This is a bit of a tricky one because, as we've discussed in the past, we want these new buildings to include some of the traditional elements, but we don't necessarily want to be creating these replica heritage buildings that somewhat outshine the authentic heritage buildings on the same street. So with the final design here, it was, I think it was close enough that staff were willing to support it. And at the last meeting, we had the opportunity as a committee to provide some updates. And what I had informed the committee is if they come back with all of the recommendations that we had discussed, that I had suggested to the committee, I had said that's something that I will be able to approve at the staff level. If they come back with something different, then I would be bringing that back for the committee to make a final decision. So in this case, because they did everything that we had discussed, I issued the permit. So it's a done deal in the sense of the heritage permit has been issued and the sort of general elements as broadly described on those last few slides will be part of the final design. But if there are little minor tweaks that the committee, wants to suggest through the actual building permit process, then that's something that we can have a discussion about, and I can ensure that that feedback's provided to the designer.
Okay. It just looked like on the rendering, it looked almost like a flat roof with these, church-like points looking up. Are they not going to have a problem with snow on their roof between all of those gables or whatever you want to call them?
That's a good question. They may. We certainly have seen that issue with a few properties, existing properties in the village that have gables like this. There's one in particular I'm thinking of that it almost appears like it was a semi-detached building. So there were two gables, one on either side, sort of like this. But let's pretend this middle gable wasn't there. So they have one small span of eaves troughs there with nowhere to drain. So they actually had to run a downpipe right down along the main facade of the building, which isn't ideal. That's something that, because of the small surface areas here, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to be addressed. But that's something I could talk to the designer about as well.
Okay. Personally, I'm not fond of it, but
Not fond of the final design?
no, I to this pointy thing reaching for the sky look to it looks a little exaggerated to me.
Yeah, it is definitely different than, like I said, what an authentic heritage building, especially a Gothic building, would look like. There are some examples of Gothic buildings that are quite similar to this. There's one I'm thinking of in Hamilton that I'm familiar with that has a very similar design to this, and I'll send around a photo of that one because it is interesting. You do see buildings that are similar in nature to this. They're just quite rare, at least in the context of Ontario, and there doesn't seem to be any precedent in the village for these types of gables. But like I said, again, it wasn't really about having an authentic design. It was about bringing in some of the design elements that you would see in this style of architecture.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. If there are no other comments, we're going to go to the video project update, which I believe someone from the subcommittee is going to give us an update on it. So I think it might be Jeff or Pam.
I can speak on it if you like, and Pam, if you want to chime in as well.
Yeah, I sent Sarah the draft text for St. Francis, so she was waiting for my email. So
Through the chair, Pam, unfortunately, I still haven't received it, but I have promoted you as co-host in case you wanted to share your screen.
I don't know how to do that, but anyway, go ahead, Jeff.
I don't have anything to share with you on screen right now, but we do have a very nice, tight minute, 15-second script, and we have all of our video elements ready to go. And I just wanted to throw it open to my committee members. If you have anything that you would like to see in this video, send it to me. I can provide you with my email address, and I'm sure that Sarah has it as well. But if you have any gold that you would like to drop into this thing in the form of drawings, photographs, or interesting information, just ship it to me, and we'll make sure it gets in the video. Otherwise,
Sorry,
we
Jeff.
have
You're talking about St. Francis, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a working script. We have most of our video elements. We have most of our still elements, and luckily, all of the stuff is in the public domain, so we don't have any problems with rights holders. So we can edit to our heart's content. And I imagine next meeting, we'll have a video to show you to say yay or nay. That's my thing.
I think this is great work by Jeff and Pam, but my question is, what's happened to the first one? Where is it, Mike?
I know that there's a YouTube link we've got. We haven't promoted it, but it's the finished version is on YouTube, and to get to it, you just have to have a link to get there. So
No,
it can,
question is to Mike. Is this supposed to go through the town, is it not?
So I believe that was the discussion last time around, that we could have the communications department add a little bit to it to sort of make it, give it a bit of a theme, so that that's something that we could keep consistent for all of these videos. I will look into that again. That may be on me for not following up with communications on that one. So I do have a meeting with them next week. I will bring this up as well. And I may need to find a way to get the actual video file from one of the committee members. But yeah, sorry about that. I will look into that.
no problem.
I mean, it's just going back to this again. There's no point in this committee going ahead and doing this, especially Jeff and Pam are doing a lot of the work. Without, it's got to go through the official Ajax channels, and there's no point in doing it if it's not going to go through those channels.
If I could interject, I mean, it does take a while for videos to make their way through municipal systems. Sometimes it has to be legal. Sometimes it's got to go through several departments' hands. So unfortunately, from previous experience, it does take a while. It often takes longer to go through the approval process than it does to actually make the thing. That's just the inertia of government. So
I appreciate. Well, I don't appreciate it, but I appreciate it. If you see what I mean.
Yeah. So I mean, I could see sometimes it takes up to a year to get these things through. So just forewarned is forearmed.
Yeah. You just don't want that work to go to waste. That's all, and lingering in his inbox.
Okay, so the text for the St. Francis, if Sarah wants to tell me how to do this, I'll do it, but I don't how to share it. If you want to see it, I think I read it out as at about 2 minutes. We kind of shared with the subcommittee, and we still have some information that needs to be added. One being the architect for the renovation of St. Francis. Sarah, can you tell me how to share this, and I'll put it up?
Through the chair, I can try. Unless, Anderson, did you want to do it?
No, go right ahead, Sarah.
I have no clue how to do it.
What type of device are you on right now?
I'm on my Dell computer.
Okay, so towards the bottom of your screen where you have your mute and your start video components, if you move along that toolbar at the bottom, there should be a green button that says
share screen.
So that will open up, it looks like tiny little thumbnails of everything that you may have open on your desktop. And the next step is to look for whichever document you are wishing to share and click on that thumbnail.
Okay.
And then in the bottom right-hand corner, share. But I may have to stop sharing first.
Nobody can see this, right?
No, they won't be able to see it until you click share.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, hang on.
Do you have the document open on your desktop currently?
Hang on, I'll do that. 1 second. Okay, so it's now, no, that's not it. Sorry.
That's okay. Take your time.
Oh my goodness. We should have done this before. Now I'm
Now you're stuck?
Next. No, hang on 1 second. Let's see. Okay, so I've now got it open on my desktop.
Okay, so you're going to go through
I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to do what?
Go back to share screen,
Share screen.
and it should pop up with those tiny thumbnails. And then you're going to find the one that is the document that you just opened. So if it was a Word document, there should be a Word thumbnail.
I don't see it. Sorry. Do you want me to read it? I can read it if you want.
Yeah, that was going to be my
Yeah.
suggestion, Pam. If you want to go ahead and do a quick read, if it's only a couple minutes, I'm sure we can all be attentive.
Okay. Okay, you ready? All right. It's basically the opening is the same as what was done for the first video. This is an Ajax Historical Minute. History is everywhere in our community, and this exploratory stop is St. Francis de Sales Church on Church Street in Pickering Village. The first Catholic church in Pickering was St. Wilfrid, an early wooden structure located on Notion Road. It was destroyed by fire before the new church was completed. All that remains is a cemetery containing the graves of parishioners, many Irish Catholics who emigrated to the area fleeing famine in Ireland. St. Francis de Sales Church was completed in 1871 by architect Henry Langley at a cost of $8,300. As the only Catholic church in the area, parishioners traveled from surrounding communities to attend services. Parishioners provided their bricklaying and carpentry skills in the construction of St. Francis de Sales Church and also hauled all the local red brick from Whitby. O'Leary, Larkin, Sullivan, Garland, and O'Connor are just some of the local Irish Catholic families. Archbishop Dennis O'Connor, for whom the secondary school in Ajax is named, was a son of a marriage between O'Connor's son and an O'Leary daughter. High Victorian Gothic in style, unique features include unique octagonal church spire, which is covered with the original polychromatic slate, trefoils, Gothic arch stained glass windows, many donated by founding families, including O'Connor, and a rare feature in church design, 3 rose-colored window dormers set in the steeply pitched roof. The rectory, where St. Francis de Sales School now stands, was destroyed by fire in 1913. In 1999, the building was designated as an Ajax Heritage Building. In 2007, the town purchased this landmark and the building underwent a careful restoration and renovation, then transformed into the St. Francis Center, a community arts, culture, and performance venue. Features include retractable theater seating for 150, a stage, theatrical lighting, sound, and audiovisual capabilities, and a catering kitchen. The new glass facade was designed by, question mark for the architect. St. Francis de Sales is the first publicly owned and accessible heritage building facility in Ajax. Be sure to visit our heritage tour again as we uncover the history of our town. Okay?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Any questions for Pam or Jeff?
I guess if I could
Yeah.
throw something out there to my fellow members, has anybody gone there when it was up and running? I went to a couple shows there and it was fantastic. So let me
Yeah.
throw it open to you guys. Anyone gone and seen a show there?
Yes.
That's great. So I guess it's acoustically, it's great. And it's a real jewel in the town. So I look forward to getting back there once things get back to normal.
Well, what
Sorry.
I was suggesting in some of that text, I didn't read that, but you can see the names on some of the windows of the families who donated the windows. It's really cool. So they would be really good pictures to get, but I think we have to get inside and when it's light outside so that you can take a good picture.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. Sadly, I never got out there to watch a show because we moved here in 2017, had a baby in 2018, and by the time we were able to leave her with someone else. The shutdowns happened.
Oh.
So I'm looking forward to getting out there for sure and checking it out myself.
Yep.
So with that, we conclude item number 4. So we're going to move on to number 5 on the agenda, which is correspondence. And I'd just like to draw the attention of the committee to an email that was circulated by Mike yesterday with regards to an online workshop for Heritage Homes. You know, we would like to encourage all committee members to attend if possible. Okay. The next point on there is number 6, which is an update from council, for which Councillor Khan, you have the floor now.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Sawchuk was trying to get your attention. He had something to add to correspondence. If you don't mind, I'll just step aside and have Mr. Sawchuk take the floor first. With your permission.
My apologies. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. So just a quick update on that piece of correspondence. I did do a little further investigation into the timing of that and looking for some additional details, and found out that there's actually a $75 fee to participate in this workshop. So I'm not entirely sure what we have available in way of a budget. I know that we typically have a conference budget that I'm not sure if that was used this year. So perhaps that's something that we can look into to see if there is money available. But you know, a lot of these opportunities are actually free, and I originally thought it would be. So I just wanted to flag that, and I can have a look into any budget that may be available.
Through the chair, Sarah speaking. Just to add to that, if anybody is interested in participating, please let myself or Mike know, and we can look into arrangements to facilitate registration for you. Because I did look up the Ontario Heritage Conference for 2021, and unfortunately there are no details listed since last year. So we do have an education and training budget for the committee. So if it's something of interest to you, just let us know.
Okay,
Perfect.
I guess I can take the floor back.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Mike. And on to you, Councillor Khan.
So I was just gonna say, if you guys didn't have money, just ask Sarah. She'll find the money. So, you know, you can always depend on Sarah. So listen, just 2 little updates I want to bring to you. I want to tell you a little bit about Amazon, what's happening and the expectations. And before that, just within the hour, I had a vaccine update from the town. I just want to share a couple of paragraphs with you for vaccine, and then I'll go into Amazon. Quickly, eligibility at mass vaccination sites have been expanded to 60 plus in Durham, which we know. Eligible individuals can book an appointment at www.durham.ca/vaccine appointment or call. There's a toll-free number that you can get. Booking opens April 8th at 6 p.m. for appointments that begin on April 13th. Eligibility also includes residents 50 plus living in hotspots in Ajax, which is pretty much all of Ajax, because they put our three area codes, which is the L1T, L1Z, and L1S, and that's all of Ajax. Individuals in a hotspot must register at the Ajax or Pickering clinics only as appointments has been reserved, and individuals must now show proof of address, making sure you're either in Ajax or Pickering. And eligible individuals can book appointments at www.durham.ca, vaccine appointments, or call the 1-888-444-5113. Now, booking opens April 8th at 6 p.m. for appointments that begin on April 13th. So 50 plus hotspots. You just got to show your address. So I guess I'm qualified to get my vaccine. Okay, so that's that on vaccine. Don't ask me any questions. I can't answer them. I'm just bringing the news that I got it. But the second part I want to bring, which is somewhat of good news, Amazon anticipated job numbers is 2,000 plus jobs. Located on 129 acres of prestige employment lands, the planned GTA East Industrial Park by Blackwood Development will consist of 4 buildings representing 1.9 million square feet of space and an estimated construction value of $330 million. The town expects to collect approximately $2.1 million in permit fees and $15.7 million in development charges over the course of construction, followed by an estimated $920,600 in property taxes per year. When all 4 buildings are complete, this park is the location of Amazon's newest fulfillment center. Construction is feverishly underway with completion targeted for fall this year, 2021. The Amazon building alone will bring $1.3 million in permit fees and $9.3 million in development charges for the town. The large influx in development charges will have an immediate impact, covering an anticipated $9.3 million shortfall in the development charges reserve fund. The development charges remove the pressure on the town's tax base and eliminate the need for internal borrowing. Currently, 30,000 square feet of the building is being completed every day, and the project remains on schedule to meet the original target completion date of September 2021. And as you can imagine, Ajax has received a tremendous amount of attention from the Amazon project, and we're seeing interest from a number of Fortune 500 businesses looking to also call this business park home. So that's some good news. At least we're going to get some jobs to keep people home, work from home, and stay here. So that's my update. There's lots more, but I think those are 2 important ones that I wanted to share with you today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Khan, for that update from council. Any questions for Councillor Khan before we move on to other business? And he already pre-qualified that he's not taking any questions on vaccines. He's not yet head of Durham Region Public Health, so.
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, so it looks like there aren't any questions. So thank you again, Councillor Khan. And now on to other business. So I wanted to open up the floor and see if any of the members had any other business that they would like to share with the committee. If
Anderson?
not, I do have one.
Okay, Anderson?
Yes.
Brenda speaking. I do have other business for the committee. I just wanted to let everyone know that this is going to be my last meeting with the Heritage Advisory Committee, as I am retiring next month.
Oh.
And it's kind of bittersweet. I mean, I've been with the committee 22 years now, so I think it's time to move on, and we'll get somebody new on the committee. But in the meantime, I leave you in good hands with Sarah and with Mike.
Thanks for all your efforts.
Congratulations.
On behalf of
Oh,
the
thank-
committee, Brenda, you will be thoroughly missed. Your passion, your dedication, and your wealth of knowledge is certainly going to be big shoes to fill for whoever takes on your task. And
Thank you.
congratulations, I guess, even though it is bittersweet. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Brenda. I must say that you will be missed, and I can blame you for one thing. You've really aroused my passion in the history of the town that's several times got me in trouble, because I stand up for what you've taught me and showed me about the town of Ajax, and I will continue to do so. But you deserve this, and you've served us well, and this is a surprise to me. So anyways, it's sad. It is bittersweet, but congratulations, well deserved.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Brenda. Does anyone else have anything else? Neil, go ahead.
I'd say it's a question through you to Mike. Mike, I was cycling up Pickering Beach Road the other day and glancing over at the John A. Murray Park and remembering the old Pickering Beach schoolhouse that was there, that was demolished in the 80s. I've not actually been in that park, but is there any sort of plaque in there for that building?
I believe there was a plaque. I know that there was a plaque. So, sorry, this was on Pickering Beach, you said?
Yeah, the old Pickering Beach, or they called it the Old Red Schoolhouse at one time, I think.
Yeah, I believe.
In the mid-80s.
Yeah,
There
there was.
is-
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Brenda.
Sorry, Mike. There is a plaque there, and it should be along the path. It's not a big plaque. It's more like one of the low-lying ones
Okay.
that sit right along the walkway.
Okay, that's why I might have missed it. I thought it might have been stuck on a big rock at the back of the park or something like that, but I'll have a look next time I'm there. Thank
I
you.
know there was a plaque on a rock previously, and at some point, if my memory serves me correctly, at some point it may have been removed by operations. I think it might have fallen off or something like that, but I know we did get an inquiry a year or two ago about this, and I looked into it. I can follow up with operations again just to determine if that is the case,
Yeah.
if we are holding it somewhere, and if we are, if we can get that reinstalled.
That would be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Neil. Any other business from anyone else? If not, I do have one item that I'd like to share. I don't see anyone else. Okay, so here's my item. It's sort of a little bit of sad news. As a lot of you know, I am the training officer at RCSCC Harwood, which is our local Sea Cadet Corps here in Ajax. RCSCC Harwood is named after Admiral Henry Harwood, or Sir Admiral Henry Harwood, who was the captain of the HMS Ajax during the Battle of the River Plate. About sometime last, and as a lot of you know, the Harwood family does visit Ajax quite frequently, along with the River Plate Association that comes into town as well from time to time. I've had the pleasure personally of meeting the great-grandson of Admiral Henry Harwood, Sebastian Harwood, a couple of years ago when he was in Ajax. But Sebastian and his dad, Jonathan, actually let us at Harwood know that Captain Stephen Harwood, which was the younger son of Admiral Henry Harwood, actually passed away in last month. So it was sometime in the middle of March, and his funeral was a couple weeks ago. He passed away at the age of 89, and he was in some poor health near the end. He had a great deal of passion for the history of the Battle of the River Plate, his father's involvement with that battle, and consequently the naming of our town after him, as well as our Sea Cadet Corps. I'm just going to share my screen real quick because, okay, I can't share my screen, but I have a couple of pictures of Stephen Harwood that I wanted to put up there, as well as the obituary was shared with us, but I won't read the entire obituary to you guys. But I do now have the ability to share screen.
Yeah,
so, so here's the first image, and does everyone see the image with him in his uniform? So he's wearing his captain's uniform right there, and that was from the days when Stephen Harwood, or Captain Stephen Harwood, was serving with the Royal Navy. And then I think I need to stop sharing and then share my other screen, which is a more recent picture of the now retired captain. And so that was a more recent picture. I think it was a couple of years ago when he was in Scotland. So that was a little bit of sad news to pass along. However, I think that the significance of the Harwood family cannot be missed in our town, and I would be remiss not to share that.
Thank you.
All right. So if there's no one else with other business, that brings us to, that concludes this meeting, and I would be
Chair,
looking for.
Chair,
Yeah, sorry.
please, before you go, I just had something I wanted to bring to the committee. Look, I plan to be here for the next year with you guys, and my purpose here is to represent you and whatever desires you might have for this committee. And I can take it back to council and bring it to the mayor and staff and see what we can get done for you. So if there's any things you have, this is your committee, and you know what you want. If there's anything you need to get done, any bucket list you want to get done, please, let me know. Talk to the team. Let me know what I can do for you. I want to have something done by the time I'm done here for the 1 year, and I'm here at your disposal. So please, I'm here to work with you, for you. Whatever you need, please reach out. Let Sarah know, let Mike know, and we can get it done together. I'm here to represent you and be your voice on council. So please use me. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Khan. And I hope that we all do use you over the next year or so that we have with you. especially if it means furthering some of our heritage agendas on a higher level. So with that, we now conclude our meeting, and I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting. So I need to. Oh,
Pam-
I
Pam
see a
is-
motion from Pam. Thank
Yeah.
you. Can I have a seconder?
I can say, oh, go ahead. Let Stephen second.
All right, Stephen seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes our meeting. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, May 5th, 2021, and the meeting will be held electronically again.
Okay. Thank you very much.